I'm Charlotte Hutchins, and I'm with Scene Pensacola, and today we have b.ray Pennington.
Hi.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Hi.
So, b.ray.
Yes.
Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
I know. I just want to say, I'm so excited to have you today because I'm such a big fan of your art and who you are as a person. And you are the best hugger, by the way, that I've ever experienced. So just tell me a little bit today about your art. First of all, we have some art here.
Yeah.
Tell us what inspires you, how you got. What I'm really curious about is, how you honed in on your specific art, because you have a very unique and different look at art. So tell me about that.
Okay, so where do I begin? I guess that I am an artist. I'm an artist entrepreneur. I like to experiment, and pretty much, the origin of this particular style, it's hard for me to pinpoint exactly, but I know it was just out of college because I was really having a difficult time with backgrounds, with the negative space, as it were, and but I like to draw images. So I sort of experimented a little bit with drawing something and cutting it out with an X-Acto knife and putting it on a separate background because I liked the texture of it, and I like to experiment and just kind of play around and see what worked and what didn't. And so, I tried that a couple of times and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I like how that turned out. What if I tried this and made it kind of 3D and made it popped off the page? And I liked how that turned out. And I was like, all right, let me try it again. So I just kind of did that, a few times here and there until it just kind of became what I did.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw your art. I'm sure you do not remember this, but
I might.
I went to a market and I saw your booth and I stepped in and I was just amazed at what you were doing and the art that you were producing. And it's very, obviously you cut out your art and you put it on these elaborate backgrounds and your maps and everything. So tell us a little bit about, what inspires you, how are you, how do you come up with the art that you produce?
So I guess I'll start by saying that I've taken to calling my fans visionaries, because my art business I call Geek Vision Productions. And the way that came about was I like the idea of something vision, like television or whatever vision. And I was like, well, I'm a geek, so that kind of has a nice ring together, Geek Vision. And the productions aspect is because I've always wanted to do so much more, produce, make movies or comic books or music, or I wanted to do, if it was a creative avenue, if I could produce it somehow, I wanted that in Geek Vision Productions. And so I like to call my fans visionaries because I think of my art as being kind of visionary in a sense, and that like I mentioned, the experimentation that and I've done a lot of thinking about this, because every so often I reevaluate where I'm at as an artist and where, what really does influence me, because it has kind of shifted over the years. But I think at the core, it's all about exploration and discovery, and that I like the idea of learning and trying new things and not being afraid to one of my favorite quotes is from the cartoon Adventure Time, and it's sucking at something is the first step to being kind of awesome at something. And it's I'm gonna try this weird experiment with my art, and maybe it doesn't go so great, but I tried and I figured out what works and what doesn't. And so I pull my inspiration just from just all kinds of things, science, nature, other artists. I really like surrealism, and so I don't reflect that fully in my art, but I like to a little bit, just with kind of these sort of dreamscapes, so to speak.
Well, I definitely feel like some of your art definitely comes alive and speaks to us. So I think your vision for your art is working for you.
Thank you. I try.
I'm gonna pull out my nifty.
Oh, I need those all the time. Let me look at mine.
So what does your art that by the way, we have some here.
This is brand new.
Yes, brand new. Never seen before, except on Scene Pensacola. So thank you. What does your art aim to say to your audience?
That it is okay to dream, and that it is important. Basically, it's okay to feel. It's okay to be who you are, and just to like have fun and explore.
Yes, I love it. That is. I mean, I don't know what art is if it's not that.
Early on, I.
What is early on? Like, when did you start doing? When did you start honing in on your art?
I like to say, the cop-out answer, which is the truthful answer, is my whole life. Because my earliest memories, I had a pencil and paper in hand, and I was doodling all the time. Yeah. And, people would, they'd say, "Oh, you're going to be an artist when you grow up?" Yeah, I am. And I meant it. Right then and there, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grow up, and I'm going to draw pictures, and that's what I'm going to be known for. And here I am. And so, early on, obviously my influence was the world around me. So a lot of times cartoons or video games. And then eventually I got my first dog. His name is Tucker. And I have turned him into a character because I do like a webcomic series. And so that's how I immortalized him, because he was one of the first characters that I drew. And so he influenced me a lot, because I'd draw the two of us going on these adventures. And so, really the world around me, whatever I was involved in, I would pull influence from that. And since then, I guess it's expanded a little bit. It's still I look to that. I have a lot of artists and creative people in my life now, and I have a lot of just an amazing support system of friends that
That's awesome.
make the biggest difference. I'm sitting right here in front of one of them that, just cheering me on and believing in what I do and asking me to do stuff like this, like that influences me. That inspires me to create and to keep going. I think I've always had the grand vision of seeing my art just go as far as it can and reaching everyone that it can. And,
Yeah, I mean, I own several pieces of yours, and I love them deeply. So
I love that.
I can see that.
And so you've seen the transformation just in the last few years.
Yes.
That how it's still, you can still look at it and say, oh, that's a Geek Vision Productions piece, but you can see the growth.
Definitely.
And that's really cool for both of us.
Yeah, and this piece right here, I mean, tell me about this piece. Is this representing, where your art is going?
Kind of, actually.
I believe it.
So, I've been saying recently that there are lots of big new things just on the horizon. And, the last couple of years, just a little bit in my personal life, I've had kind of a rough time. Like, I've had some unexpected things come up, but I've pushed through and kept going, kept creating. And so in a way it feels like a rebirth, that I am on my way to becoming who I always imagined I would be. And so this piece, I recently rediscovered, I'm wearing it, this. So I don't know how well you can see it, but it's a phoenix made of clay, and it has a little piece of amethyst inside. And actually on the back it's got glow-in-the-dark clay. I don't know how well it works, but the idea was that so that the amethyst could shine. And so a friend of mine who was an art major with me in college, I gave her the piece of amethyst. I was like, oh, can you do something cool with this? I'd love to wear it as jewelry. And this is what she made. And I had it like in one of my treasure boxes, and I rediscovered it, decided I want to wear this again because it feels fitting. And I noticed it was kind of heart-shaped. And that also comes into play because I do a lot with hearts in my work, and I've been, people have sort of thought of me as like, being kind of all heart, so to speak. And so I wanted to create my own piece that was inspired by this piece, to represent like so I call this piece Ascension, and it's supposed to like represent the rebirth and the growth and the heart and the passion.
Yes, I love it.
Thank you. And now I forget exactly where I was going with that. I was on a roll, and then I had to reboot.
Like, where do you see your art going, beyond where you're at right now?
So I guess that kind of leads into what I'm about to be doing.
Okay.
Which is I will be the director of a brand new art gallery.
Ooh, tell us more. I want to hear all about this.
So the gallery is called, it's French, and it's Galerie du Sacré-Cœur.
And I did not want to attempt to say that, so I'm glad that
I had to practice it a couple of times, because the way it reads, it doesn't look like it should sound like that, but that's...
I read it a few times, I'm like, I'm just going to let him speak to it.
Yeah, Galerie du Sacré-Cœur, which is Gallery of the Sacred Heart, because it's in the old Sacred Heart Hospital, and because of the heart imagery that I like to portray in my work. So it's kind of everything is kind of layered, and it like inspires itself in a way. And so.
All right. So what else is in store for b.ray and b.ray Productions? All of that, everything.
Right now, I am the host of a radio show. It's live every Friday night, 6 p.m. Central Time for 2 hours. It's called Geek Out, and I think I've been doing the show for almost a year. The year anniversary is coming up in June. The opening reception for the gallery is coming up in June. So that's a lot of things happening.
Sure is.
But through doing this show, it's helped me learn a lot about myself. And, sort of reestablish where I'm at as an artist and what inspires me, because one of the things that has held true from one week to the next is the discovery aspect. And that's sort of how I figured that out. I was like, yeah, that's, me as a person and me as an artist, that's what I look for, is discovery. And so the premise of my show is like, it's all geeky in nature. So, and I present it in a way where like people who don't think of themselves as geeks might be tuning in and want to learn a little bit. So to, suggest that we're all kind of geeky,
Right.
We're all passionate about something, and we all, whether we know it or not, we want to learn. And so sometimes I discover new things and I learn new things, and then I share it on my show. And, I get really passionate about the music or just whatever it is I have to talk about. So that's been a big thing going on. And then the gallery.
Now the gallery, is that going to be just your art, or are you showcasing other artists?
Yes, I will be showcasing other artists. So the opening exhibit will be my art, and it's going to rotate out every couple of months. So I think we've got the first year of artists like booked out, basically.
That's awesome.
But it's exciting, because I'm I love to support other artists and give them the opportunity to display their work.
Right.
And also I like to be able to handpick and say, what, I know this artist, I know that they're good.
Yes.
I want their work in my gallery. Right. I have the opportunity to give other people opportunities, and that's huge to me. So it's nice that I can kind of facilitate that for other people.
Yep.
And so it'll be, I guess my exhibit will be there from June through July, and then the next exhibit will be on display from August through September, and then it'll kind of keep doing that. And so anyone that's out there that's an artist that's interested, I'd love to see your work.
Yeah, definitely. Well, great. Thank you so much for coming today and talking to us and sharing everything that you're working on. So if we are interested in purchasing your art, is that through the gallery? Is there any other avenues that you're selling your art right now, or tell us about that?
Okay. So mainly my Instagram is where I post a lot of my work.
What is your Instagram?
It is Geek Vision Productions.
Awesome.
All one word. But I also have a Patreon, where I just sort of post some behind the scenes stuff and some of my video work, because I'm also a video editor. One of the things that I forgot to find.
One of the things.
But yeah, my Patreon is there actually to help motivate me to finish a graphic novel that has been a passion project for like 15 years. And it's patreon.com/geekvisionproductions, because I like to be wordy, apparently. So, and that the main thing with that is people can just kind of go there, see what I'm working on, and if they want if they've got a couple of bucks that they want to throw my way and support, that's awesome. But there's no pressure to do so.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to share with us today about where you're headed or anything that you would like to share?
Well, I'm going to cut in here. I got a question for you. So
Yeah.
How exactly are you going about doing it? Like, in terms of the process itself of your pieces, I would just like to know.
Okay, yeah. So this, I do a couple of different styles of art, but this has been my main thing just because it's so unique. And so the way that I go about doing one of these pieces is I'll have an idea in mind of what I want to create. Usually it starts with just the image itself, just the phoenix that's vaguely shaped like a heart. And so what I'll do there is I'll draw it on watercolor paper, and then usually go back over it with like a fine art pen, and then color it with alcohol-based markers to give it that very rich, bright color. And then cut it out with an X-Acto knife, and behind it is a layer of foam core. So I use that to kind of give it some reinforcement, and then I use scrap foam core behind that to really raise it off the surface. So then after all that's in place, I will paint the background. I'll paint the background, usually with watercolors or some other like water-based media, just to give it some contrast, and then use rubber cement, put it all together, and I'll even kind of lay it like this so you can kind of see like the dimensional aspects of it.
Can we see the other pieces you have back
Sure.
around the corner?
Absolutely. So this is another new piece, and this one was very involved. Once in a while, I like to challenge myself a little bit, and
I love that. That's incredible.
Thank you. This is one of my favorite ones. So I used to do more pixel art, but I sort of got away from that because it ended up just being too tedious. And I heard one too many times people going, "Oh, look, it's Minecraft." And I kind of got tired of that. And, it's just, there were a lot of reasons. Like, I like doing it for a little bit. So this was sort of an homage to how I used to work with pixels, but I wanted to do like large pixels and create sort of a sunset piece. And this, I've mentioned like the surrealism and the dreamscapes. I wanted to create sort of this flowing, something you might see in a dream or like in a Dolly or an MC Escher piece. And
I'd rather you not be limited by pixels, so you just have more options, right? And
yeah.
I love the fact that you have like a 3D effect to even popping out the frame there at the top.
Yeah. And that's something I like to do too, is sometimes, I don't like to be limited by the frame.
Right.
So I like to make the pieces go a little bit off the edge.
Definitely.
And that's one of those things I've experimented with in the past, where I would make it like so 3D that the weight of it would make it fall. But that's just part of the experiment, where it's like, all right, that was fun to do, but it's just not practical. Or the opposite, I'll make it go so far like off the edge that it ends up getting sort of beat up. And so, again, worth the experiment, fun to try. But I learned through that process, okay, maybe not so far off the edge. But yeah, that's...
These 3D-ish ones, how long have you been doing these specifically?
15, 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe about 15 years. I have to think back sometimes. In this... Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, how old's that piece?
Oh, this one's pretty new. So maybe a few months old.
What else do you have for us today?
Yeah. So I brought some of my newer pieces, just because I wanted to show like where my work has gone. So
I love it.
Thank you. So yeah, this one I wanted to showcase basically the nature aspect. I love to draw animals. I like to make them at least kind of realistic. So I was inspired by this. I have a pet box turtle, and I dug her out of a hole on accident, and I was doing some landscaping. I was digging a plant to like move it, and then in the shovel was this tiny box turtle, and I went, oh my God, I've just killed this thing. What have I done? And I looked at her, And, you know, she's just like real turtled up,
Oh.
you know, poking her head out at me. And I'm like, oh, she's alive. All right, I'm taking you home. We're doing this thing. And I was trying to name her, and I looked up turtle mythology to like get some inspiration. So I ended up naming my turtle Thea, but I called this piece Pangea, because I noticed that like cross-culturally, several cultures have the world turtle myth, that the idea that the earth is supported on the back of a turtle. So, you know, I chose to make the continent Pangea, to, you know, sort of represent like the age of the earth and how turtles have, you know, longevity. So, and then, you know, I had her floating in space because I love to do outer space. And yeah, it was just all because I accidentally dug up a turtle and went, all right, let's do some research. Let's figure out what to name her. And her name actually comes from, because I was, you know, torn between, do I want to name her Thea or Pangea? I liked Thea better because there's a scientific theory that there was a twin planet to the Earth, that they were on the same orbit and they collided with each other. And so basically Thea was a little bit smaller, and the Earth absorbed Thea, and part of the debris basically formed the moon. And I thought that was really interesting, and it's a cool name. So there you have it.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
I've seen many like island being on a turtle show.
Yeah.
To the whole Earth being on a turtle show. I've seen anything and everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of the nerdy, I think Dwarf's Mask. There's a turtle and Zelda with that.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I brought one more piece to show off, and this is, I guess, just about a year old. And this is a common image I like to show in my pieces. And this door actually opens. So it's got like a little, like some outer space in there. So the door, very much the influence comes from like Super Mario Brothers 2, because it was like the weird one in the series. And I put a little potion in my logo, which comes from that game, which ties into the whole like experimenting, but also that like art can be a portal and a doorway to like new experiences, to new thoughts and feelings. And so it kind of goes hand in hand that like in that game, you'd find a potion, you'd throw it, a door would appear, and you would enter the door and there would be a whole new dimension. And so I like to kind of reference that in my work with these doors that are just kind of exist. And once in a while I like to make them open, but also when they're just hanging and people see them, they're like, can I open that? Do I open that? It's almost like a dare. It's almost like a challenge of like, do you dare to open the door and see what's on the other side? Because I encourage it. I understand that like a lot of people don't, but I do. I'm like, just don't tear it up.
Yeah.
Feel free to open the door, see what's on the other side. So yeah, that was the idea here.
I love it. That's what has drawn me to your art from the beginning, is that, you know, there's like a wonder about it. Like there's more to it than what you first see.
Yeah.
You open the door and there's a whole world under there. So, yep.
Thank
exactly.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think you could totally hide like pieces behind different objects now, and you don't really think about that when you're drawing 2D.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
now you have all of these other options
Right.
of what you could possibly be hiding behind the scenes.
Sometimes I do.
And that's cool. Yeah.
Sometimes. But yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there any other things that you'd like to share? Some final words that you'd like to impart?
I guess just briefly, I do want to touch on one more endeavor.
Sure.
Because it's been coming up recently, and I've kind of put it on hold for several years, but I've had that just kind of that itch to get back into it, and it's that I'm also a musician, and I have a project band that I call Meteorite, which is actually a play on words. It's two words. It's the word meteor and the word right, as in to write. And so I like the sound, like meteorite.
Yeah.
But you know, it's very space influenced. It's like a progressive rock type project where I write the music and the lyrics, and hopefully within the next year I'll be able to focus more on that. So right now I'm just talking about it.
Right.
I haven't got to the point of like revisiting it, I'm just trying to hype myself up so I can get there.
Well, I know if you are focused on it, you will make it happen, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
Thank you.
And Team Pensacola will be very interested in that, so
Good,
we will
good.
you will be hearing more and more from you. So we look forward to that.
Cool.
And thank you for coming today. And
Thanks for
we
having me.
love having you today.
I love being here.